All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have the honor of being joined by Prerna Richards. She is the CEO and founder of Together We Grow, and she has years of experience in the early childhood education field. Today, she's going to be speaking to us about the myths regarding hiring and retaining in early childhood education and how we can all shift our mindset when we're approaching hiring amazing staff members. So without further ado, Prerna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm excited to join you. And this is a hot topic because we are all facing it across the board in our industry. You know, every time I speak to a director or an owner, and the first thing they're saying is, I can't, maybe, people can't join this webinar right now because they're shorthanded. They've stepped into the classrooms. This is happening across the board every day, and it's a real problem. And I think what we need to maybe do just at the outset, as we get deeper into the content, is to change our mindset, right? I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did, I'd be really rich. I don't have that right now. But what I do have is some strategies that some of the schools that I've been working with have implemented, and it has given them some ideas to think of it differently. So we're talking about shifting our mindset. That's what this conversation is. It's really, instead of looking at it like this, we're trying to shift it so that we can look at it from a different perspective and get different results. Just to add to the introduction that you had given just now, I'm also a behavior coach. And part of my job as a behavior coach is coming in contact with directors and owners that I'm helping them in the classrooms with their teachers, because I'm coaching the teachers. But a lot of what is happening in our field for turnover of staff and shortage of staff has to do with how we approach things. So I'm going to bring it all together. I'm going to leave you with practical strategies that you can hopefully implement the very next day. So super excited about this topic. And here are my main 4 points of objectives that I want to cover in our conversation together. Talk about a mindset going from hiring to recruiting, then going from the importance of focusing on the growth versus retaining. So using these words from, shifting our mindset, not from hiring, but we are recruiting, and not from retaining to growth, and we're investing in the personal growth, professional growth. We'll talk more about that in a minute. We'll also talk about the generational differences. The people in the different generations, how do they show up in the workplace? How does that influence what we are doing, and why we need to change those as well? And the last thing we'll talk about is implementing a mentoring program, if you want to think of that. So I would have found out who was joining us, but that's okay. We'll just move forward. And just for a minute, because we're all coming, running around working our normal day, and we're shifting to a webinar. Wherever you're listening from, just let's take a moment and pause, and let's just get a few deep breaths. Every time we do a deep breath, intentional deep breath, it engages our brain for listening and learning. It helps us to become focused. It helps us to become alert. And so this is tip number 1, by the way. If you're trying to transform your programs, become a breathing program. I can't speak enough about this because there's so much neuroscience research that is coming out that is giving us the benefits of breathing and directly related to stress. And the work we do is very meaningful and very stressful. I 100% believe that early childhood schools and programs, teachers, directors, owners are the hardest working, because every day there's like 1,000 things coming at you, and you've got to remain calm. You've got to, in a way, keep yourself in your sane lane. And so breathing helps you to do that. So become a breathing program and implement it throughout the day. At least 3 times, 4 times during the day, just randomly somebody says, let's take a brain break, and everybody takes a deep breath. And you can get creative, you can have fun in your office. If you don't have children, do it with your coworkers. So I have two shapes on the screen, and those are just guidelines, but you can be creative and do any kind of breathing that makes sense. So let's start with the square breathing. And it's good because it's something your hand is doing, but also your brain has to engage to pay attention. So here we go. And now second deep breath. So the research says 3 deep breaths changes the mindset. So second deep breath, we're going to make a heart breathing. Send ourselves some love, send somebody else some love. Whoever needs some love, let's share it today. Here we go. And the last one, we'll just do a gratitude breathing. You can put your hand on your heart to be grateful, or you can just say out loud. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm grateful for the work we do that makes a difference in the lives of children. This is important work that we're doing. So let's dive into the reality. I don't think anybody needs me to reinforce this, but we know this. There's a staff shortage and the demographics are shifting. There's a definite clear line happening in our work field right now. More people in their 20s and 30s are coming in, and people on the other side are exiting. And so this happens to be one of those very rare moments. I don't know if you agree with this or not, Benny, but I feel like since COVID, time has become warped slightly, and it feels like we're at a junction right now where there's a shift. I feel like suddenly more younger people have become qualified to work. Have you noticed that from where you are sitting in your end of the world?
Definitely. Yeah. I think that so much has changed since the pandemic, and that's one of the big ones for sure.
Yeah, more and more people are retiring, or more and more people are exiting, or they took early retirement because of the COVID and they just couldn't deal with it anymore. Or they've shifted jobs and such. Many of the teachers have now become Uber drivers. I find that fascinating as I drive around. I hear that. So there's definitely a shortage, and there's demographic shift happening. The staff turnover, we know this. It's actually an interesting financial fact if somebody's curious about this. Every time you have a staff leave you and you have to bring on a new person, you are spending $3,000. Think about that. $3,000 every time a staff leaves because of in-service, background check, fingerprints, this, that, the whole 8 hours of in-service. If you've lost 4 people in the last year, you've wasted $12,000. It's just stark when you think of it in those terms, right? So we know that this adds to the financial bottom line. Every time staff leave, every time we are having to shift this, and the burnout is directly related to the challenging behaviors in the classroom. I very strongly believe this. So many teachers and educators are getting burnt out because they can't take the stress. The behaviors are increasing, the children's behaviors, the teachers' behaviors, stress at home. And so the revolving door happens. And that's adding more just to the fact that we are shorthanded because people are just like, I just can't anymore. So I have a question for you, Benny. Do you remember the definition of insanity?
Isn't it doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So this is why this webinar is urging you to change your mindset. If you're getting the results you're getting right now with staff shortages, staff turnover, staff burnout, then you really need to listen and see if you can take one nugget away from this conversation to do something different. Otherwise, you'll get the same results again and again. That's just the definition. That's just how it is. But every time you bring on a new staff member, every time you move a teacher from classroom A to classroom B, every time you shift somebody's time, change happens. And here's the really interesting thing about change. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a book called 4 Stages of Change. And I read this in a flight somewhere, and I found it fascinating because it broke it down that no matter when the change happens or what the change is, the change will always go through these 4 stages. So the first one is forming. You form a new team, you form a new group, you form a new partnership, you shift the kids. This is also summer, so some kids are shifting in the classrooms. Some teachers are off for the summer, so you're having subs, you're having, assistants jumping in. All of these changes are happening. So the first one is you form the team. Whenever you form a team or create a team, a new team, it is guaranteed to go through a storm. So it'll go through the bumpy period, it'll go through the rocky period till the new system gels and people feel comfortable and people feel at ease, and then they get into their new rhythm. Quite often, what happens is we lose people in the storming stage. Quite often what will happen is they'll join, and within a month, 2 months, 3 months, they'll be gone. It's too much for them. They can't deal with it, and they can't, they give up. And there's several things that are happening during the storming that could be adding to the stress of the storming period. It could be that we don't have clear policies and procedures. It could be we don't have clear expectations. It could be that they don't have a mentor assigned to them who they could go for their little questions, and they're shy and they're embarrassed and they're insecure, so they don't speak up, so they're just quiet. Or it could be personality friction between the owners, directors, new hires, or co-workers, or maybe there's cliques happening at the school. The reasons are varied, but the point that I want to make is if we can be aware that we can anticipate it coming, we can prepare for it. So if we know that when we form, the storming is going to happen, we might even say that to the staff. Look, guys, I'm changing your time shift. I'm changing your schedule. I'm bringing on a new person, and it's going to be a bit rocky and bumpy. But here's what you can do. If this happens, go to this person. If this happens, go to this person. Touch base with somebody on a daily basis to get your questions answered, to get clarification, instead of festering and instead of holding on. So we can prepare for it, right? So we're not blindsided by it. I like to think of, if you were at the beach, which I would love to be at the beach by now. If you were at the beach and you were watching the waves coming, we used to live in Hawaii, and the big waves, we would actually go to the North Shore to watch the big waves. By the way, you should put that on your to-do list, on your bucket list, to go to the North Shore of Hawaii to watch you've seen it, you've been there.
I've been to Hawaii. Yeah. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing ever.
See, so it's worth watching. It's spectacular. So if you go to the North Shore to watch the big waves coming, you know it's coming, and you can position yourself so you don't get drowned in the wave, right? You're anticipating it, you're preparing for it. That's how we should prepare for every time we form a team. We know the storming is coming, and then the storming has to settle, the waters have to smooth, and then the norm will happen. Then you get into a normal rhythm, and then finally you can perform. But quite often what happens is we hire somebody, we bring them on, and in 30 days, we're like, why are you not performing? You've been here 30 days, you should be doing your stuff. But they were stuck in storming. They didn't get to norming, and we wanted them to perform. So keep this in mind as you transition and as you make change. The other thing really is to keep in mind is take a analysis of your current situation. Do you have someone on your boat currently who is sabotaging your boat, who's sabotaging your organization, who's making a hole in the boat, letting the water in? And sabotages take many shapes and forms, right? They could be the grumpy people, they could be the gossiping people, they could be the negative people, they could be whatever, bad-mouthing people, whatever. If you're facing shortage of staff and you can't retain them, and staff is getting burnt out, there's somebody on your boat, as hard as that sounds, and you know who they are, people know who their boat is being sunk by. You have to make sure that your boat is secure before you bring other people on your boat. So this is, since COVID, when I talk about this, quite often people are telling me, but Prerna, I'm desperate. I know that this is not my ideal person, but this is an 18-year-old breathing, living person, and I need somebody in there, and I'm desperate. But you have to change your mindset. You can't lead from insecurity. You can't lead from fear, because that keeping that one person on board is ruining the rest of them, and you lose some good people. So you really have to come from a place mindset of abundance, like I will find the right people, I will do the right thing, and I'm going to stick up to this, because this is not going to, the business won't survive it. Okay, so now we're going to shift between what is the difference between recruiting and hiring, and how do we shift our mindset for it. So to me, hiring is you put in a linked ad, you put in a job posting somewhere, and you expect people to apply and you bring them in. That is not working right now. The ads are not getting answered, or people answer them and then they don't show up for the interview. I've had so many directors tell me there was no show. They just didn't even bother. So the old-fashioned way of hiring for a position is not working. I don't think so. Recruiting is, on the other hand, slightly different. So I want to share a story about myself being recruited 3 times, because I've seen it work again and again. The first time I was recruited was when we were in Scotland, and my girls were very little. The older one was 3 and the younger one was 1, and now they're in their 30s. So I'm aging myself. It's been a minute. It was a local preschool close to us. A nursery school is what it was called in Scotland. And we had enrolled our older daughter there, and I would go and I would volunteer, and the director and the teachers were very nice, and they would let me bring my younger one along. And so the 3 of us would hang out for the half a day or a couple of hours, or just randomly. And as I started doing that, they started saying to me, Prerna, you're here so much, why don't you take some nursery courses? And I said, what's that? And they're like, go here, community college, take it. And I loved it. So I did that. So then I became their substitute and their volunteer on demand. That started my journey, and I was recruited for the very first time there. The second time I was recruited was when we moved to Hawaii, and I was going to enroll my younger daughter in the school next to us. And she said, would you, we were talking about my experience, and I said, this is what I had done in Scotland. And so she said, well, would you like to be a toddler teacher? I said, okay, what does that mean? And she said, you have to get your CDA. Okay, how do you do that? Oh, you go to community college in Honolulu and you do the community college thing. So I did that. Fast forward, it has now become a career. I've been in the field for 38 years, but this was not, my initial plan was to be in interior design. So somehow this path happened for me. There may be people around you that don't even know that this is their calling, and it maybe just opens it up for them. So the third time I was recruited was over COVID, online, talking to somebody on Facebook, and we were like-minded people, and she's a business coach and I'm a behavior coach, and we connected, and it was like magic. And she was like, well, you could coach my people that I'm working with for the business, and you can support them in the teachers, and I can support the business. And done. Yes, sign me up. I'm willing to help anywhere, anyone, right? Again, these were not things that I was seeking, but because they sounded fun and exciting and they aligned, it kept taking me forward. So I had shared this story in one of my conversations I was having with somebody, and then the director actually said to me, she said, I'm so excited. I did what you said, and I have hired my first person. I said, what do you mean? She said, okay, this is what happened. I was sitting in my office, and my office faces a parking lot with a pavement outside. And every morning, if I happen to be in my office, Jennifer is the name of that director. Jennifer said, every time I was in my office, if I happened to be there at 9 o'clock, I would watch this young boy walking up and down exactly at 9 o'clock. He would pass my window every day. And so one day, Jennifer just happened to place herself in the pavement, just, outside the building, just accidentally just there, and struck up a conversation with this young man. And she said to him, I noticed that you go by every single day at 9 o'clock. What do you do? Where do you go? And he said, oh, ma'am, I'm just a car wash person next to your school. I just wash the cars here. That's what I do. And he was maybe in his 20s, early guy, a young guy. And so she said, have you ever thought about being in education? And he said, no, never. I don't even know what it takes. She said, come on in. She brought him in. She talked to him. told him about the CDA, told him about the Teach program, told him about the scholarships. And as it happened, she had an after school opening because, that's what the opening was. She brought him on. And when she was talking to me, it had already been 3 months, and she said it was her best hire. She would never have hired him, but he turned out to be the best hire because somehow it just aligned. He had the work ethic already there. He was already committed. He was already dependable, accountable, and the rest, the skills can be taught, right? So skills can be taught, but attitude is harder to teach. So find people to recruit who have the right attitude. Look at your parents when they walk in, your current parents, your past parents, not the ones who are on their phone when they drop off the kids, but the ones who actually put the devices away, who are engaged with their children, and just reach out to them. Have you ever considered this? The benefits are that maybe, you can get a discount for your own child. I mean, it's just, you never know. So people that you meet on Facebook, in life, in real life situations, think of them as their work attitude, and can that be recruited for a position that you're hiring? What do you think about that, Benny? Does it sound like something you've heard of, or?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great just perspective, and it applies to so many different like industries, and regardless of like what you're seeking, like you have to keep your eyes open. And sometimes like the things that you think you're searching for are different from what you're actually searching for. And so like being open-minded and realizing that like not everything is going to come in like the pretty, like perfectly wrapped package that you might think it is. Like sometimes it just comes in a different form, and you have to be open to that.
I love that perspective. Yeah, that, things won't come the form that you want them to come, and just being open-minded, we start looking at it from a different mindset. Maybe I have a position in my organization that you might fit, and maybe you'll be groomed into
Right.
something else, but it applies across the board in so many cases. Somebody else had said they had an ECI specialist come to their school, and before you know it, she became a mentor at their campus, and she's happier there. So you never know. You never know. The other thing I would say is, if you haven't done this yet, do a SWOT analysis for your organization. The SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so I have a twist to the SWOT. The traditional SWOT is done with the leadership team. I would like to twist that a little bit, in the sense, do it with the people that are already committed to your organization, mission, and vision. Do it with the people who already show up with the work ethic that you would like to have, regardless of their title. It could be your chef, it could be a bus driver, it could be your janitor, it could be your floater, it could be whoever, or it could be somebody from your office, assistant director, whoever. But it's more, are you already committed to us, and would you like us to grow and get better? Then you're invited to that SWOT party. So arrange a SWOT party on a day, on a Saturday or evening or something. Feed these people. Keep it small. Don't make it very big. So if you get too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, it will become chaotic. But bring maybe, from different perspectives, one from a teacher perspective, one from a parent perspective, one from a custodial admin perspective, maybe a chef or a bus driver perspective, or after school program. Like, bring different perspectives of people that are already committed. And then you put up the big white sticky papers on the wall. And the conversation is open-ended. What worked really well last year, and what do you think we could make better? And we go through this SWOT. So we find out our strengths, we find out our weaknesses, what are our missed opportunities, what are we not doing that we should do, and who is a threat to us? Who should we be careful for? What should we be looking out? So do this, I would say do it once a year, if not twice a year, because this will give you, and invite different people to the party if you want, but this will give you a perspective from a different seat in your organization, different seat in your bus, and they might have value to add that's missing your eyes from the chair you're sitting on. And then also be careful with what the message is going out. What is the message on your social media? What is the message that's leaving your building, with parents coming in and out, staff coming in and out, current families, past families? What are they saying out there? because we know when people are dissatisfied, they're going to tell 10 people about it. Can you believe it? That happened to me. Can you believe it? I was unjustly treated. And they'll only tell 2 people if something good happens, right? We're less likely to share if everything is going well, but there is a social message leaving your building, leaving your all these different accesses of people coming in contact with the organization. And what is that? And can you tweak it? Can you fix it? Are you even aware that this is happening? Maybe you're losing staff because there is some clicking behavior happening in the toddler classroom, and there's a bully, one of your teachers is a bully, and she's bullying the other people that you bring on. We don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So shifting from hiring to recruiting is really a mindset shift. And you can look at, and this is like a 360 of changing your mindset and how can you recruit and what is the message. So this is fascinating to me, by the way. And Penny, you look really young, so you might be right in that millennial age gap. Are you?
Yeah, I'm a millennial.
So technically, for those of us that are listening, what the Bureau or Census Bureau says is anybody born between 2000 and 2000, was it 99 and 2000 to 10 or 2000 to 20, I think it was. Is it?
Yeah, is that Gen Z?
Yeah, so it's people born in the 2000s, right? Are the millennials, right? Or is it 90s
No,
and
so
2000? It's 90s and 2000.
90s. Yeah, because I was born in the 90s, but yeah, I think the cutoff is like 1999. Or around there, you start to be Gen Z.
Yes, yes. So exactly, the people born in the 90s have now entered the work field. My brain was all getting confused. Okay, I tend to do that because I'm baby boomer on the other side. Okay, so this is a very fascinating thing though. Quite often I'm hearing from owners and directors who are in their baby boomers, who are in their 50s and 60s, they're telling me the young people coming into the workforce these days, they don't want to be held accountable, they don't like to be held accountable, they push back on it. Here's the truth. So there was a research done and they followed, I want to say 10,000, or it was a high number of millennials who were growing up through high school, through college, and now they've entered the workforce. And what they found out through this research was that as it happens, millennials do want to be held accountable, but they want to hold the organization accountable too. So don't just hold me accountable. You also have to practice what you're doing and what you're saying. If they see unfairness happening, if they see, special treatments happening, this teacher comes and she's tardy and she never gets anything said. And this person, you get on to them because they're late, right? So this is the missing piece. They want to hold the organization accountable. They want to hold leaders accountable, but they also want to be held accountable. And accountability is not a bad word. Some people shy away from accountability because it makes them feel like it's going to take them into confrontation. Accountability doesn't have to take you into confrontation. Accountability is just saying, I'm doing what I said I was doing. You're doing what you're saying should be doing. We as an organization are doing what we said we would do, and we're holding ourselves accountable to get our goals accomplished. Had you heard of this, or does this resonate with you because you are that age group?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think it's no longer just about paid. It's about making sure that your values align with the company that you work for. And it's so important to so many of my peers and myself as well that we're working for companies that are ethical and that are, have stances that feel ethically right and moral, and that, caring about the world and equality and diversity and all of those things. So I definitely, this resonates with me.
And you brought up a really good point. And they want to do work that's meaningful. They want to make a difference. They want to make the world a better place. They want to be more inclusive and accepting and equitable. And guess what? Early childhood is the best space for all of those things. I can't think of a better place because we are influencing the next generation while supporting the generation in the middle. and we could be inclusive and equitable across the board. And so, yes, and I can't think of a more meaningful work, but it's all about telling your story in what value, so just a little, because I have to talk about the brain research. We're talking about early childhood. 90% of the brain is getting wired in our programs by the time the children are 5. So think about that. 90% of brain wiring is happening birth to 5. Before we send them to kindergarten, we are giving them a strong foundation that's going to live with them for the rest of their life. I like to call it what happens early in life lasts a lifetime. What could be more meaningful? What would be a better influence in the world than changing the next generation, right? So that is one missing piece, why we're missing some of the millennials and we're not keeping them happy. I can't stress this enough. We're in the field of education. Words matter. But it goes deeper. Thoughts, words, actions, results. If you're not getting the results you want, go back to your thoughts, change your words, change your actions, and then you will get the results. If we keep saying we have shortage of staff, you will have shortage of staff. Staff are burnt out, Okay, change your thought, change your words, change your actions, change your results, right? It's all connected. The other word that I really don't like is retaining. Somehow, to me, retaining feels like a retaining wall. I'm in Texas. Say no more. There is a retaining wall, which was a big deal, right? And so I'm not being political, but this is the feeling, the emotion that this word generates in me. I don't like it. Retaining is not, it's a negative vibe. I'm like hanging on to you. I'm grabbing on to you. I'm like, not letting you go. I'm retaining you. So I would much rather drop the word retaining and replace it with growth. People are more likely to stay with us if they feel like we're invested in their personal growth, professional growth, we're empowering them, we're raising up the bar. They are more, because then it gives them work fulfillment. Then it gives them job satisfaction. And how can we do that, right? How can we intentionally grow our people, empower our people? What systems do we have in place? How much autonomy do we give out to our staff? Where do they have control? Where can they share their creative ideas, right? And when we invest in personal growth, professional growth, it brings joy. It brings joy and purpose to what we're doing. We could get behind it. There's excitement. Oh my God, we're doing this. This is so awesome. We're going to reach our goal. And we did it together as a team. And we're changing the world and we're making it better because of our children that we're influencing. We are changing the world, right? So when you as an organization can create space for ownership and contribution, think of it again, we're talking about shifting your mindset, right? So not doing the same thing again and again. How many different people within your team can contribute? Can they make a suggestion? Can they bring an idea to the table? When you have a staff meeting, how many of them are staying silent? How many of them are sharing? Are their ideas being implemented, or is it falling on deaf ears because the next time they won't speak up? They'll just go leave the job, find somewhere else where they're valued. People stay in places where they're valued and appreciated and motivated. We all want to feel that, right? And so staff members also want to be seen and heard. Seen means I see you as an individual. I appreciate you. You're completing the puzzle of my building. You're completing my puzzle of the team, and you add value. But does that staff member know what value they're adding? Are you sharing with them that this is your spark and you're joining us and you're bringing your spark with you? They also want to be heard. Do they have a way? Do you post up your agenda ahead of the meeting? Do you post it up in the hallway and say, if you have any ideas for the upcoming staff meeting, put it here, right? Or is just one person creating the agenda and it's filtered coming down that I decided what we should talk about and we'll discuss about this, but making it more inclusive, right? So one of the strategies is to post a blank agenda in the staff break room and say, our next staff meeting is next Friday. If you have any ideas, if there's something you need to put on the agenda, go for it. So how are we intentionally creating ways where their voices could be heard, that they could be seen as individual, beautiful, creative humans that they are? And this was no mention of money. You could do all this with no mention of money. I have come up with a G model because I just feel like when we say the word G, it makes you smile. So focus on growth, focus on invested emotionally. Are your team members invested emotionally, physically, mentally, so that they want the organization to grow and prosper? And when you are emotionally invested in something, you are committed to seeing it through versus physically present. If you're just physically present in a building and you answer things like, I've seen this happen so many times. I've walked, into a building, a school, and I've asked somebody, do you know where so-and-so is? Or do you know where if I can find this? And they're like, I don't know. I just work here. And that tells me you're not even invested in it. You like couldn't care less. You're just like, I just work here. So the next time you hear somebody say that, I don't know, I just work here, call them aside and say, well, how come? How come you're not invested? Come on. Why don't you know this? You should know this. And let's not use words like this, right? But your silence is your permission. When you hear people giving remarks like this and you don't call it out and you don't direct them, then that becomes the culture of the building. I don't need to take ownership. Everything is getting decided in that office. I don't care, right? And the conversations in the hallways, in the break rooms, outside should be evolving. How can we make that better? That activity wasn't very well received. Can we make it better? That fundraiser that we did, that didn't go very well. Can we make it better? How can we make it better? Evolving is always thinking of how to make it better, how to grow it, how to improve it. And there's learned lessons everywhere. So I do have free resources that you can download, and you can also sign up for the weekly newsletter. I send out a weekly newsletter every Monday, which is called Lessons Learned from Little Humans. I have a YouTube channel. I have lots of free resources, transforming challenging behaviors. There's also an Amazon link that you can buy books for your school. If you're lots of free stuff, you can go to togetherwegrow.online, or you can use the QR code, whatever works for you, and take advantage of all the resources. And I have a behavior coaching program for schools, and that's for supporting teachers. If you're interested in that, reach out. I'll tell you more. It's been a game changer with the schools that I've worked with. Every single school, 100% success rate, stress has come down, joy has gone up. Our goal is to go from stressful to joyful. And we're doing it. So you can find out more about this. The other thing that is really helpful, and millennials will say that they would like this, is having a mentorship program in your organization. And what's interesting about this mentoring program from that research that I was telling you about the millennials is that they don't want the mentor to just be based on age and experience. They want the mentor to be based on skill and talent, not age and not experience. Would you agree with that, Benny? Does that align with you?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I personally, like, I'm a business school student. So, and I'm a little bit on the older side for most business school students. So I have definitely sought mentorship and advice and help from people younger than me. And the age is just a number. It doesn't really play a role in it. It's more just, who is an expert or who has skills or talent in this area. So I agree with this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Yes, it's exactly that. What can I learn from you? Do you inspire me? Do you motivate me? Do you have something that I can learn from? I also did an MBA, so my background is also business. But yeah, and I had people younger than me in my class, and I was impressed by them and learning from them. So, in this mentorship program, you could create little cohorts. You could have 2 or 3 people that, the toddler teachers, and there's a mentor for them, not based on age and experience. I'm going to say that again, because our logical brain says, Miss Susie Q has been here 15 years, and so she is in her 40s, so she should be a mentor. And the new one's coming in and saying, but she's not even a good teacher. What am I going to learn from her? Right? It doesn't work. You have to find the best one. There could be different cohorts created. And if you're interested in this more, we can go deep. I'm going really on the surface right now, but this is something to consider. But this is where you could create personal goals, professional goals. I had a director who did this, and she found out that one of her teachers' personal goal was to buy a house. So she helped her open a savings account, and she get her money, directed into that. And then she bought a house. And now this staff member is committed to this director because she helped her accomplish her goal. She's not going anywhere. She feels invested in the program because she feels like, you did this for me. Yes, I love you, I love being here. So there's many ways where we can create a community. But the bottom line is, if people don't feel like they belong, and I also very strongly believe that the emotion of inclusion and emotion of belonging is a feeling. It's an emotion. Either I feel like I belong or I don't. Either I feel included or I don't. It's an emotion. So we have to be mindful of this. If people are not feeling included and they don't feel like they belong, they are more likely to leave. The people who stay with an organization, it's not because of the money. The money is, of course, is good, but the bigger picture is that I felt like I belonged. I was part of the family. People are less likely to leave if they like who they're working for and the benefits that they're getting, but also the work family that has been created around them. So some ways to create that, I'm sure you're doing some of this, but celebrations, it's really important that you recognize anniversaries, birthday celebrations, anniversary, work anniversaries, accomplishments, if they've got a degree, if they've achieved something, that as a family of school family, we celebrate. Doing fun events. Fun is what brings joy. How many fun, random things are you doing that's bringing laughter and joy in your hallways? I was doing a visit the other day and everybody was dressed up in crazy clothes. And I was like, what happened? Like, what is today? I didn't understand. It was like, they're like, no, this is just our fun day. We have this once a month and we just go crazy and we love it. And there was smiles and laughter and joy and everybody just being silly. And the kids were having fun. How many fun events are you creating? Again, not coming from the office only. It has to come from within the team. Their voices have to be heard. If it just comes from the office, then it just becomes voluntold and one and done. But if they come up with the idea, then it's their idea, right? So do you have internal face groups? Do you have internal chat spaces where you could pray for each other? You could cheer each other on. You could support each other. You could encourage each other. Or is it that work and school life is not blending? So you don't know what stress they're facing outside of work. So we're not talking about it, right? There's that fine spot. And then communication styles. So many workshops that I do is to do with communication and stress. One of the tips, if you're writing down the tips of how to change all this, is asking your team to answer this question for each other. Before the new school year starts, this will be a good thing to do. I'll give you an example. I was coaching in an infant classroom the other day. There were 4 teachers in the infant classroom, which is an amazing ratio, but they were still grumping and they weren't getting along and they were all complaining about each other. And so I did a facilitated session, a coaching session with them. And I asked each of them this question: how would somebody else know that you're under stress? What do you do when you are under stress? One of them says, I shut down. The other one said, I just get busy cleaning the place. The other one said, I just avoid talking and I give them the cold shoulder, right? So, and the last one said she also shuts down. She starts crying. So knowing how people show up when they're under stress is important, so that we can know that, oh, my coworker is under stress because she's already told me when she was calm that she shuts down when she's stressed. So my second question to them was, so the first one was, what do you do when you're under stress? The second question was, what can the other person say or do when you are feeling stressed? And so we had this conversation when they were calm. And some of them said, well, asking me, are you fine? I'm going to say I'm fine. That's not a helpful question to me. So I said, what is a helpful question? And she said, just taking a task off, just saying, can I do this for you? right? So you have to have this conversation with your coworkers. How do you show up when you're under stress? And what can the other person do when they notice that you're under stress? Why does this matter? Because when we get stressed, that's when we get hurt feelings and we don't see each other's perspectives. And that's when the stress escalates. And that's when the whole thing, we become emotional and become reactive. So this is a good one. And to complete this, it could be when I feel stressed, I do this. What can the other person do to help me? The other one is I feel respected when, I feel valued when, I feel appreciated when. So finish these sentences. I feel respected when, I feel valued when, I feel respected when people listen to me. I feel valued when people include me. I feel appreciated when my hard work is noticed. Whatever it is, have them complete this form. And if you need it, if you need the template, reach out to me, I'll give it to you. But have them complete the template so that we start the school year with a better understanding between each other. We recognize that the stages of stress and changes are going to happen. We prepare for those stages. We change our mindset. We don't retain anymore. We go for growth. We recruit versus hire. And then we invest in our people so that they're seen and heard and they stay committed to us, right? So that is in wrapping the conversation that we were going to have. But I can, let me see here. I can share a couple of resources. Actually, I might just do that right now. So give me a second and I will share a couple of books. They are on my Amazon list, but I want to share it anyway. The 5 Love Languages for Workplace. Knowing the love language of your individual team members is a game changer. Love language is how they feel appreciated. If you don't know about this, you need to check this out. And the other one is a strength finder. So coming from a place of strength and not deficit and weakness, let's focus on the strengths that they have because everybody brings something to the table. Let's work from that. And if we can connect with them through their love languages, there are 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, tangible gifts, physical touch. Everybody has a different love language. When we speak to them in their love language, they feel appreciated, valued, encouraged, and supported. And that's what we want. We want them to feel that. Any questions? Wondering? We're almost at the closing.
I just think that was all so awesome. And you speak so well about all of these things, and you're just like in a really accessible and interesting way. So thank you. I learned a lot. I obviously, like, I work at Playground. I'm not specifically on the field, on the court in early education, but I definitely feel like I learned a lot. And I think all of this is so applicable to so many industries. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're clearly a wealth of knowledge. Yes. No,
that's so kind.
Yes. And I think our community is going to really love learning from you. And as Prerna said, you can reach out to her. So if you have questions or you want to learn more, you can reach out. There's that. Yes, perfect. That QR code. So I know I'm going to be taking a look at all of those resources myself.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you all
I'm also
so much
on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, on social media.
Yeah.
So join, become friends. We are very small.
Build the community.
Yeah, build the community. Meet at the playground.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Thank you so much, Prerna. I am going to stop the recording, and thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.